Hello everyone, my name is Jane and welcome to the Bookaholic Golden Book Awards. Happy 2022! This is the first video of the new year and this is time to talk about my 2021 favorite books. I've been waiting to do this video for so long and I really want to show you my 2021 favorites, but I made a twist on this favorite books video. I didn't want just to show you my favorite books, so basically I got inspiration from the Goodreads Choice Awards and I decided to do the Bookaholic Golden Book Awards. Basically the thing is that I read a lot of genres and I love it. I really love that I have so much variety in my reading. I really love that I feel like I can read most genres. And basically the Goodreads Choice Awards is a choice awards that is based by categories. Every category is a different genre. So I wanted to do the same thing and to choose favorite books by genres. So basically today in the Bookaholic Golden Book Awards, I will be presenting different categories in different genres. And in each category, I chose 4 favorite books. And those 4 books are the nominees for this category, and after I will show you the nominees, I will announce the winner of each category, and this winner will get the golden ribbon and it will be the golden winner of the genre. I had so much fun doing all the graphics and I'm just really excited to show you my favorite books. Some genres were really hard to choose from, other genres were really easy. Those are the genres that I'm going to talk about today, and I will be starting with the first category, my fantasy favorites. This is actually the only genre that have sequels on my favorites. Fantasy is probably my most read genre in my life, but specifically in 2021 I didn't read a lot of fantasy, but those 4 books are books that I love so much. I will be talking about all the books today by the order that I read them. The first book is Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is the 4th book in the Folk of the Air series, The Cool Prince. I think the whole series was pretty average. I also didn't enjoy the 2nd book at all, but the 4th book was so enjoyable for me. I was so surprised of how much I loved it. And although the series isn't my favorite, the last book was really good plot-wise and just everything. Then we have the 2nd sequel in this genre, and this is Winter by Marissa Mayer. This is the 4th book in the Lunar Chronicles series. The last book, if you don't include the bonus books and all of this. I read the Lunar Chronicles in the end of 2020, so this is the only book out of the series that I read this year, but I just love this series so much. It isn't the favorite book that I read out of this series, but it's definitely one of my favorites this year. It was so fun to go back into this world. I just love the Lunar Chronicles so much. Like, this is an amazing series. I was enjoying reading it so much. And then we have a book that is really close to my heart, and this is The Wicked Deep by Shara Earnshaw. This is a dark fantasy book. It's very gloomy and very atmospheric, which is the exact kind of books that I love. I love this book so much. It was so amazing to read it. I just felt like I'm actually in another world. It was really amazing. And finally, for this category, we have This Witches Dawn Born by Isabel Sterling. This is a YA contemporary fantasy, and I wasn't expecting the fantasy to take a big part of the story. I thought it would be more romance and fun story, and it was, but the main element here was the fantasy and the fantasy plot, and I was so surprised from the plot and from the characters. Definitely one of the biggest surprises this year. I thought that I'm going to love it, but just not this much. It was so fun. And now I will be announcing my favorite fantasy book of 2021, the golden winner of this category, and this is The Wicked Deep. I loved it so much. The reason that I wanted to start with the fantasy category is because The Wicked Deep is my most favorite book of 2021. Not only in the fantasy category, in all of the categories, all of the genres. This is the best book that I read this year. It was so good. It just felt perfect to me. Every time that I think about it, I just feel so much only from the memories from this book, and I would really recommend it for everyone because it's so amazing. And yes, this is the golden fantasy book. We are not going to have any sequels anymore. Most of the books from now on are standalones. I have some first books in a series, but most of them are standalones. And the next category is going to be the romance category. But the thing is that most of my favorites this year were romance books. So I decided to separate this big category into 2, YA romance and adult romance. Basically every book that I wasn't sure what is the age group or the actual adult books, I put in the adult romance. The YA romance are just books that are clearly YA romance books. And I will be starting starting with the YA romance. I feel like I read a lot of YA romances this year. It's just so fun to read and really easy to listen to. The first one is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elson. I really enjoyed it. I listened to it in an audiobook. It was made really well, really fun Christmas YA romance. I would definitely recommend. It was a great time. The second one is November 9 by Colin Hoover, because obviously I'm going to have a Colin Hoover book on my favorite list because Colin Hoover is one of my most favorite authors. Most of the books that I read by Colin Hoover are becoming my favorite books, and this is a double POV story, and it's just really sad. I cried so much from it, and I really loved it. The next two books are actually 2021 releases. The first one is You Have a Match by Emma Lord. I talked about this book so much on my channel. If you are not new, you probably already heard me talking about it because I really loved it. This book just felt to me like The Parent Trap in a book, and it had so many things: friendship and family and romance and just everything. I enjoyed it so much. It's a great coming of age story, and I would keep recommending it because it was so good. And the last book for the YA romance category is Made in Korea by Sarah Sook. This is a YA enemies to lovers about two teenagers that are running a K-beauty business at their school, and they have two different businesses. They are basically enemies and they are trying to beat the other business. And this book was just so good. It's another 2021 release, and it's so underrated, like definitely the most underrated book out of this list. I really can't understand how people aren't checking this book because it was really amazing. And yes, now I will announce my YA romance winner, the YA romance Golden Book. And this book is Made in Korea. This book is just perfect. Like, I love it so much that for me it was so obvious that this is going to be a winner of this category because it was just so amazing. This book was just made so well. Also plot, also characters, just everything was really good here. And also the audiobook is really amazing. Like, the narrators did an amazing job. So this is definitely a book that I would really recommend, and please check it out because it doesn't get enough hype in my opinion. And now we are getting into the adult romance. Honestly, it was the hardest category to choose from. Also to choose my 4 nominees and also to choose the winner. I did choose only 4 nominees. The first one is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This book is just perfect. It's so summary. This is enemies to lovers with fake dating. I feel like so many people are hyping this book up, but I really get why. Like, I don't think that I ever saw a better review about this book. It's just so fun, so enjoyable. I feel like so many people can enjoy from this book, and it was just so amazing. This is my favorite Christina Lauren book that I read so far, and I just really enjoyed it. And we have a 2021 release, and this is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I love this book so much. It was amazing. The plot and the characters, it was really steamy, and I just loved every part of this book. I listened to it in audiobook, and I think that I finished the whole book in a day or two because I couldn't stop listening to it. It was just so fun, and mostly it was really relatable because the main character needed to change a lot because she went to a different place, and I just feel like there were so many character developments, and also the romance were amazing. Then we have Regretting You by Colin Hoover. Yes, this is the second Colin Hoover in my favorite list. I think that I read only 2 or 3 Colin Hoover books this year. If I read more, I'm sure my favorites will be more Colin Hoover because I just love her writing so much. This is basically a contemporary romance story. It's a new adult because we are following also a mother and also her teenage daughter. I really love this book. It was so emotional and so touching. Like, Colin Hoover know how to touch me and how to make me cry. I really love this book. It was so amazing. And the last nominee for the adult romances is the most surprising romance book that I read this year, and this is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is an age gap romance between a teenager and the father of her boyfriend. So this is kind of forbidden love because she has a boyfriend, but she and the father has a lot of tension between them. And this isn't the type of books that I usually read. I don't love age gap romances, and I don't think that I really love this trope, but Penelope Douglas just made it so understandable, and I loved the characters and the romance so much. I was so surprised. I never expected to love this book so much. Until today, I can't stop thinking about it. And now I will be announcing the winner. And the thing is that it was so hard to choose the winner. I have 2 books here that are just my most favorite romances that I read this year, and it was just so hard to choose. But I need to do it, and my winner is going to be Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. Again, I'm so surprised that I actually love this book so much. The second place is definitely It Happened One Summer. I read Birthday Girl only in November. So until November, It Happened One Summer was my most favorite romance book that I read this year. So it almost won. Almost. Just in November, I read another romance book, but I love those 2 books so much. Both of them were so amazing, and I really love them. But yes, if I have to choose one of those, I do think I loved both the gore a little bit better. But again, both of them were amazing. But the golden adult romance is both the gore. The next categories are thriller and horror. I will start with the thriller, but those two genres are the only genres that I was able to choose only 3 nominees from. I could choose 4, and I had some books that I really loved, but I was feeling like saying that those books are my favorite of the year was a little bit stretching it out, so I prefer to have only 3 books, but those 3 books are actually my favorite from each genre. So first of all, the thrillers. The first nominee for the Golden Thrillers is No Exit by Taylor Adams. I'm recommending this book all over the place because it was so amazing. Basically, the main character of the story gets stuck in a storm, so this is a really snowy thriller, and the main character can't really escape where she is. And this book was just the most thrilling book that I ever read. I was feeling so sick while I was reading it. I really felt so nervous for the characters. I read it something in 3 or 4 hours because I couldn't physically stop reading this book. It just wasn't possible. Since the moment that I got into the story, I couldn't leave it, and it was so amazing. Then we have The Turn of the Key by Ruth Fair. I started to read her books this year, and I really love her writing style, but The Turn of the Key is by far my most favorite book of Ruth Fair. It was so thrilling and so creepy and just so amazing. I felt like everything was made so well, and I also listened to the audiobook, and the narrator was so good, like just so amazing. It was such a fun thriller. I had an amazing time reading it. And the last thriller nominee is The Whisper Man by Alex North. Now the thing is that this isn't usually the books that I really enjoy from, because I do feel like it was pretty character driven and pretty slow paced, but I really loved the writing, and I feel like the writing really made me connect to the characters and actually be nervous about what is going to happen. And I really wanted to keep reading this book because I really wanted for the characters to have a good ending, and I couldn't really stop reading this book. It was just so fun, so enjoyable. The writing was really great. I think the plot was great, and it's also an isolated town kind of plot, which I really love. And now I will announce the Golden Thriller, and this is going to be No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is the only thriller that I read this year that I gave 5 stars. I think it also was the first 5-star that I read this year that wasn't a graphic novel, and I just remember loving this book so much, and until today I'm thinking about it, and it was just so amazing. I would definitely recommend it. It was so much fun, and I really hope to read more books like this because it was just so amazing. The next category is horror, and horror is a genre that I started to read only this year. I never read horror books before that, and I love this genre so much. It's definitely a genre that I want to read so much more in 2022, and I have some really good favorites on this list that I just love so much. The first one is Horrid by Katrina Leno. This was my first horror book that I ever read, and it became a fave right away. This is basically a YA horror story. It isn't really scary, it's more atmospheric and unsettling, but I just loved it so much. I do feel like the plot wasn't amazing and was pretty predictable, but the writing really got me, and the writing was the thing that made me feel so in this world and in this setting. It was just so atmospheric. The horror atmospheric is definitely a sub-genre that I love so much. If you know me, you probably know that I can't stop talking about this book because I love it so much. The next book is another book that I read the same week as Horrid. It was for my reading first time horror vlog, and this is Venus in the Blind Spot by Junji Ito. Junji Ito is a really well-known manga horror author, and I never read something like this until I read this book. It was so creepy and unsettling and just crazy, unexpected. While I was reading it, I couldn't understand how a human being was able to think about those stuff. It was so amazing. I really want to read more Junji Ito mangas in the future, but from those that I read so far, this is definitely my most favorite one. Definitely a really scary book, and it's very gore. Like all of Junji Ito books are really gore. And the last nominee for the horror genre is The Stowaway by James S. Murray and Darren Wermuth. I read it I think only last month, and this is a thriller mystery horror. I'm not sure what is the exact genre. I'm pretty sure that the authors are saying that this is a horror because I heard an interview, but in my opinion it's more of a horror than a thriller because it was really gore. Like it had so many gore elements, and basically this story surprised me so much. This is a horror on a cruise ship, which sounds like the perfect thing that I love, and I feel like there was so many things in the book. Also the plot was amazing with amazing twists that I didn't expect, and also the characters. I felt like there was a lot of character development, and this book was just so smart. I don't see anyone talk about this book. It's a new release. It was released 2 months ago, but it's so amazing, and I would definitely recommend. And now I will announce my golden horror book. And if you know me, you know what is going to be my golden horror book, because obviously it's going to be Horrid by Katrina Leno. This is actually a book that I gave 4.5 stars, but I'm going to higher it up to 5 stars because I can't stop thinking about this book. Like, I legit read it, I think, in March. So it's been something like 10 months since I read it. And until today, I can't stop thinking about it. The writing touched me so much. Just Katrina Leno writing was so amazing. And yes, I would definitely recommend this book. I just loved it so much. Now the next category is graphic novels, because I love graphic novels. I read a lot of graphic novels, and it was really hard to choose only 4 favorite graphic novels, but I feel like those favorites are really favorites. Like, I love those graphic novels so much. There are definitely 4 of my all-time favorite graphic novels. One of them is also a new release, and I just feel like all of them are so perfect. I love them so much. The first one is Mooncakes by Wendy Xu and Susan Walker. This was the first book that I read in 2021, and it was an amazing start for the year. She's basically a YA fantasy graphic novel, and we're following a witch and a werewolf. Everything here was so cute. It just was such a cute graphic novel. It had a really good representation, and I also feel like the plot was really, really interesting. And also, it's definitely one of my most favorite illustration styles that I read. The colors are so vibrant, and it's just so pretty. It really gives me a lot of fall vibes, and it was just so fun to read it. Definitely a graphic novel that I would recommend. The next graphic novel is Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell. I love this graphic novel so much, especially because I usually feel like graphic novels are pretty short and you don't get a lot of depth, which is understandable because it's shorter, it's more quicker to read. And I do feel like there was some open endings here and things that weren't explained fully, but overall I do feel like this graphic novel had so much depth and so much emotion, and it really touched me, and it was so amazing. It had amazing representation, and I feel like it approached the subject of a toxic relationship so well. And also, I really enjoyed the illustration style because all the illustrations are black and white, but with pink, and I really love that there is a color scheme, but one of the colors are popping up. I feel like it was working really well with this graphic novel, and it really marked some things that were more important with the pink color, and I just really loved this graphic novel. The illustrations were amazing. The 2 next ones are summary graphic novels, and the first one is Bloom by Kevin Panetta and Savannah Ganchwe, another graphic novel that I loved so much. This is a male romance. I really enjoyed it. If you love Heartstopper, I do think you're going to love this one too. It was just so fun. It was also pretty long, like it has almost 350 pages, which I really enjoyed. I also know that there is going to be a sequel, I think in 2022, so I'm really waiting for it. I just feel like the whole graphic novel was really sad and really emotional and really cute, just a lot of things, and the whole illustration style is really cute, and like you can see, everything is in blue colors, which I really love, and I do feel like it was really fitting for the story. So it was just so cute and adorable and emotional and sad and just everything, and I really loved it. And the last nominee for the graphic novels is The Girl from the Sea by Molly Oaks Orstarg, and I love this graphic novel so much. I was really surprised from it. It's a female romance. It has an amazing representation. I feel like there were so many dimensions in this story, especially because it didn't only talk about romance, but also about friendship and family. The only thing is that this definitely, those kind of graphic novels that I felt like were too short for me, but I still really enjoyed it, and it was just so cute. And this is also one of my most favorite illustrations of graphic novel that I ever read. I really love the style of everything. Also, the style of the clothes that they were wearing was really cute. It was so fun and also really modern. This is a 2021 release. It was released, I think, in the summer. It was just so fun to read and definitely modern, and I really loved it. So now the golden graphic novel is going to be Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, because I just loved it so much. This is the only graphic novel that I gave 5 stars, because this is the only graphic novel that I actually felt a really deep connection with. I do feel like it was deeper than other graphic novels. It also was more emotional and touched more sensitive topics, so there is a lot of trigger warnings here, so be aware of it. The Girl from the Sea was a really close win because I really love this graphic novel. It's definitely the second place in this genre, but the golden graphic novel is Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. And now we got to the final category, and this is the other genres. This is all the genres that I don't read a lot of, or genres that I do want to read a lot of, but I didn't read a lot of in 2021. There's books that I don't have any other nominees in this genre except of them. The first one is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is a YA dystopia story, although I really feel like this is more of a mature YA. This book was so amazing. This is a dystopia sci-fi, and we are just in a future world where everything is so different. Really love the world building here. This is the fourth book in a trilogy, and unfortunately the second and the fourth book were pretty disappointing for me, but the fourth book was just so amazing. It was the exact thing that I love in books. It talked a lot about humanity and about living and death. I felt like I learned so much from this book, and although I loved the second and the fourth book less, I still feel like this whole trilogy is so good. Definitely a trilogy that I would recommend. I really loved it. The second nominee is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is an adult historical fiction. I don't read a lot of historical fictions, but this is one of the genres that I do want to read more in 2022. But this book was just so perfect. I listened to it in the audiobook and I loved it so much. This is a very hyped book and I really get the hype. I was really scared to read it because I usually don't really love character-driven stories, but I feel like also the characters and also the plot and just everything was so good. The writing of Taylor Jenkins Reid, it's really touching. I feel like she has so many amazing quotes that just makes you feel so much when you read them. It's definitely an amazing book and I really get the hype. The next book is Dial A for Aunties by Jess Q. Satano. This is a cozy mystery and I don't read cozy mysteries. It was the first one that I ever read. I did try to read more this year, but this is definitely my most favorite one. Now the thing is that this book is the only book here that I gave less than 4 stars. It was 3.75 I think, and it's because I never read a cozy mystery before and it was just so unexpected for me and I didn't expect that this book will go to this direction. I didn't know anything about it before I read it, but now a few months later I can say definitely that this is a 4 star for me. The audiobook was so great, it was so funny, so adorable. It was really all over the place, but this was the exact point of this book and I just really enjoyed it. There is going to be a sequel releasing in 2022 and I'm so excited about it. I think that I'm going just to adore it, and yes, I really enjoyed this book. It was so good. And the last nominee for the other genres category is The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend, which is the first book in the Nevermore series. I have here the translated copy in my native language. I love this cover so much. It's so beautiful. I just think it's so gorgeous. But basically, I never read middle grade. Also, when I was in the age of middle grade, I didn't enjoy middle grade and I was reading more YA. But this book was just so good. I was so not expecting to love it this much. Like I never thought that it will be my favorites of 2021, but when I finished reading it, I just knew that this is one of my favorites this year. It was so adorable and fun and cute. I will be definitely checking the rest of the books in the series and it was just so fun. And the winner of the other genres, the Golden Other, is going to be The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I really love this book. I felt so much while I was reading it. I was so nervous because I'm a plot-driven reader, but as a plot-driven reader, I still really enjoyed it. Definitely would recommend. It was so amazing and I just loved it so much. And yes, those are my favorite books that I read in 2021. I loved those books so much. Every one of the books that I talked about today are my most favorite books that I read this year. Also the books that were only nominees and didn't win the category are still books that I love so much. Definitely books that I think about them a lot. Honestly, 2022 wasn't the best reading year because unfortunately I had a lot of favorites, but the majority wasn't really books that I enjoyed. But when I'm looking back at it and when I'm looking at my favorites, I'm just feeling so happy because I learned so much about my reading taste in 2021. And like you saw from this video, I had a lot of favorite books that I loved so much, and I just feel like this year was so important for me and for my reading. And it was also my first year here on BookTube, which is so amazing. I really hope that you enjoyed this, the Bookaholic Golden Book Awards. I loved making it so much, all the graphics and just everything. It was so fun. My real life friend helped me with the name of the awards, so thank you so much for helping me, and it was just so fun to make it. I'm so happy that I made favorites, but by categories. I love doing this. I feel like it's so much more organized, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please tell me what is your most favorite book that you read in 2021, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone!